Hi guys, this is Jason Matthew from WeCanEduTech, where we make learning to use educational technology simple. Thank you so much for being here. Whether you are interested in adding an extra layer of security to all of your Zoom meetings, or you want a feature that allows you to bring in participants one at a time in a meeting without them interacting with each other, then this video is for you. At the end of this video, you'll be able to explain to someone what a waiting room is, turn on or off the waiting room settings, schedule and manage waiting rooms, and know when to use waiting rooms and breakout rooms to suit your needs. You can use the timestamps in the video description below to go to specific parts of this video where these are addressed. So what is a waiting room? Well, to start with, the host is in the main session, and participants use the Zoom meeting invite to join the meeting. The invite will include the URL and password, and the password might be embedded in the URL depending on the host's meeting settings. Since the waiting room feature is turned on, participants enter a waiting room. This waiting room is not a communal space. Participants are not aware of the presence of other participants in the waiting room, nor can they interact with each other in the waiting room. The host can admit all participants from the waiting room into the main session or manually choose which participants he wants to admit. The host can remove a participant from the waiting room. Once a participant is removed from the waiting room, that participant cannot re-enter the waiting room and therefore the meeting. The host can return a participant to the waiting room at any time during the meeting. The host can then bring the participant from the waiting room back in the main session or have the participant removed from the waiting room. Once removed from the waiting room, the participant will not be able to join the meeting. It should be noted that the host also has the option to directly remove any participant from the main session, and the participant will not be able to rejoin the meeting. Now that we know what a waiting room is, let's set up one in Zoom. The waiting room feature should be on by default, but just in case, let's see how we can access the waiting room settings. There are three ways in which we can enable the waiting room. One way is to go through the Zoom web client and access the global settings, and this will affect all meetings you schedule. And the two other ways involves using your Zoom desktop client, where you can enable waiting rooms when you are scheduling a meeting or during a meeting. If the waiting room option is enabled, join before host feature will not work for that meeting. First, we will access our general settings using our Zoom web client. Now, one way in which I can do that is first to start with my Zoom desktop client. So I click on my Zoom desktop client on my desktop, and I go to the cog wheel, which is in the top right corner here. So you're seeing settings. I click on that, and then I click on view more settings. And what that would do, it will open up my web browser and carry me to my web Zoom client. So now I'm in the settings of my Zoom web client. I go to advanced settings, so I click on advanced, and then I scroll down until I see waiting room. So I'm looking for the waiting room options here, so it's down here. So if the toggle button is grayed out like this, that means that the feature is off. But I'm going to click on it now. So that it's going to turn blue. So that means the feature is now on. And you see I get confirmation. Your settings have been updated. So it means that the settings have been saved now. And my waiting room feature is activated. What this means is that for all future meetings that I schedule, it will have the waiting room. So this is one way in which you could go about it. If you enable waiting room in your global settings, it's going to affect every single meeting that you have in the future. Now you could choose which participants to place in the waiting room. Is it that all participants joining your meeting should go into a waiting room, or you could choose the option where it's guest participants only? And in that scenario, it will be a situation where your Zoom client is on has a organization domain. So for instance, if you have a Zoom account that belongs to a university or a school or organization, and all of you all have the attached to that account, then a guest will be anybody who is not part of that. So you could choose that option if you're having work meetings and stuff, and you know everybody who has the same domain could come in. You could just choose guests to go into the waiting room. But if you want to play it extra safe, you could choose all participants. Now the other option here is that you can do some customizations as well to your waiting room. So if you click on this little pencil icon here, you can do some editing. So this is the default message here. Please wait, the meeting host will let you in. But if you click on this pencil icon here, you could change the message into anything that you would like. But just remember there's a 64 character limit. So you have to be aware of that. And when you change the message, you can just click on the tick here. So that will confirm your new message. I'm going to leave the default here. You can also add a logo. So if you click on this pencil icon here, you can take a picture that you have stored. So if it's the logo of your company or some other picture that will kind of enhance or kind of characterize what the meeting is about, you can put that there. Just remember the restrictions for the logo is that the logo should be in a GIF or JPEG or PNG format, and the file size cannot exceed 1 megabyte. And the dimensions of the logo should be cannot exceed 400 pixels. So it means that this logo is going to be very small. And then you could add a waiting room description. So here you can put a short description of what your waiting room is going to be. And there's a maximum of 400 characters. And once you finish with the description, you're happy with it, you can click the tick here, and that will confirm your description there, or I'll just click the X to come out of it. This is one way in which you could customize your waiting room. To be honest, I normally just leave it with the default because it suits the purpose pretty well. So this is one way in which you can enable the waiting room. So again, this will be a global setting. So if you enable waiting room here, it means that all future meetings that you schedule will have the waiting room enabled. Now, the other way in which I'm going to show you is to use your desktop client. And if you're using your desktop client, you are affecting whatever one meeting and just that meeting alone. All right, so now I am in my desktop client. I'm on the home tab and I'm going to schedule a new meeting. So I'm going to click on schedule, and the name of this meeting is going to be, let's call it Zoom training session. And always put the name of the person going to be the host. That's always a good procedure there. Going to be a recurring meeting. It's going to be ID generate automatically. It's going to be have a password and all of that. But today we're looking specifically at waiting rooms and how you will activate the waiting rooms if through your desktop client is that you click on advanced options. You click the drop down arrow there. And I already have enable room enabled. So there's that blue tick there. But if you see a box like this, it means that you're clicking it to enable the waiting room. And remember, if enable waiting room, if that's activated, then enable join before host will be not activated. So this is the proper settings, and then you just click schedule. So now I will click on my meetings tab on my desktop client, and I will go to my Zoom training session, and I'm going to click on my Zoom training session meeting, and I'm going to start that meeting. As the host of the meeting, I am getting notifications that participants are joining my meeting and now they are in the waiting room. So you see, I got the notification here. 3 people have entered the waiting room for this meeting. And now I have the option to click on See Waiting Room. On the user side of it, the participants will be seeing the message, please wait. The meeting host will let you in soon. So they are waiting to be let in. So if I click on See Waiting Room, I can see the different participants that are in the waiting room and wants to come into the main session. So there's Christy, Helen, and Ethan. Waiting rooms add an extra layer of security to our meeting. It allows us to move unwanted guests before they ever join the main session. Once removed, the participant will not be able to rejoin the meeting. So in this example, I'm expecting 2 participants to attend the training session, and that's Christy and Ethan. I will admit Christy, so I click the admit button next to Christy's name. So it says joining. And then I will click the admit button next to Ethan's name, and Ethan will also join the main session. So it means now that Ethan and Christy are in the main session with the host. So they can now communicate with each other and do all the other stuff that you would tend to do in a normal Zoom meeting. So they can see the different participants, they can communicate with me, the host, and so on. Now we are left with Helen the Great. And what you can do is that because you know it's only Ethan and Christy that belongs to this meeting, you can click the remove button. And once you click on the remove button, that's going to remove Helen from the waiting room and from the meeting altogether. And once you click the remove button there, she would not be able to rejoin the meeting despite having the link and the password. If she is removed by the host, she won't be able to join in. But before I go to remove, there's another option I can do. I can click on message and actually send a message to Helen to explain why she thinks she's supposed to be in this meeting, just to make sure it's not a mistake or that somebody didn't add an extra name last minute and now this person needs to join the meeting. So I can always message the person and find out. But for this demo purpose, we are saying that Helen is not supposed to be in this meeting, so I'm going to click remove. So this is also a great way, for instance, like if there are unwanted guests, like like you hear the term Zoom bombers going around now. If there's a potential Zoom bomber there, this is one quick way in which you can remove them without they even come into the main session and causing any kind of disturbance. And when I click on the remove button there, do you want to remove Helen? It's asking me to confirm. I click OK, and Helen will be removed from the meeting. And Helen would see on her device that she has been removed. And if she tries to join the meeting again, she wouldn't be able to join. Now, at any point during the meeting, I can return any of those participants back into the waiting room. I just need to hover over their name and then click on more and choose put in waiting room. So if I would do that to Ethan, I click put in waiting room. Ethan now goes into the waiting room and he will get the message, please wait, the meeting host will let you in soon. So Ethan is back into the waiting room. I can either remove him or I can bring him back by clicking on the admit button. And at any point in time, I can remove any participant from the meeting altogether. So again, I can just hover over their name, click on more, and then click remove. And Zoom will ask me for confirmation if I want to really remove this person. And if I click OK, the person will remove, and they will get a message, the host has removed you from this meeting, and that person will not be able to rejoin the meeting. Now, at any point in time, you can go to your control center and click on the security icon. And when you click on the security icon, you will have the option to either activate waiting room or deactivate waiting room at any point during the meeting. So right now, if you look, there's a tick there, and that's because we have enabled waiting room. So we are using a waiting room right now. Now I could deactivate it by clicking on it. So you get the message you have disabled the waiting room. It means that new participants trying to enter the meeting will not go into the waiting room anymore. They will come straight into the main session. And at any point in time, you can just click the security icon, and if you want, you can turn it back on. So this is just some of the options you have. Participants in the waiting rooms cannot interact with each other. They are not aware that anyone else is in the waiting room with them. They can't speak to anyone else. They are waiting for the meeting to start. They can't hear any music. And the reason why I put that in is because I see in the Zoom blogs that people often ask that question, if there's a way to play music in the waiting rooms for their participants to listen to while they wait. The answer is no, at least not as of doing this recording. Participants in a breakout room, however, can interact with each other. They know who is there. They can speak to each other, share their screens, and do all the things you would expect to be done in a normal Zoom meeting. Breakout rooms are ideal for group work. Besides the obvious security benefits of using waiting rooms, are there any other ways we can use waiting rooms? And the answer is yes. For teachers, it can be used for exams such as oral exams. The examiners are in the main session and the students are in the waiting room. The examiners can bring in one student at a time from the waiting room into the main session where the examiners can examine that student. The other students in the waiting room does not hear the answers that student is giving. You can even return the student to the waiting room while the examiners discuss the student's responses and then bring the student back to the main session for follow-up questions. The same principle can be applied for interviews, advising, office hours, and even counseling sessions. I am sure that you all will come up with a lot of creative ways to use waiting rooms. So please share your stories in the comment section below so we can learn from your experience using waiting rooms. Please have a look at our other videos. We have an entire video dedicated to breakout rooms. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification icon so you don't miss a thing. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe. Bye.